Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so what NBA coach probably has the record of turning teams around the most? Okay. I would probably have to say Larry Brown has the record of turning NBA teams around because he took a Spurs team that was 21-61 in 1989. It took them to 56-26 the next year, David Robinson's rookie year. He took over a Clippers team at midseason that was 21-24, led them to a record of 45-37, and almost upset the Utah Jazz in the first round of the 1992 NBA playoffs. Okay? And so he takes over the Indiana Pacers in 1994, the same Pacers team that finished 42-40 in 1990, 41-41 in 1991, 40-42 in 1992, 41-41 in 1993, right? Okay. So for the past 4 seasons, the Indiana Pacers averaged no more than 42 wins. Okay. He took them from averaging 42 wins to a 47-35 record and the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay. 1994 and 95. Okay. And so he takes over the Philadelphia 76ers. They won 22 games in 1996 or 1997. Turned him around. Had them in the playoffs in 2 years. He takes over the Detroit Pistons, okay, who had got swept by the New Jersey Nets in the 2003 Eastern Conference Finals, and takes them to the championship, okay? And so now he's head coach of the Charlotte Bobcats, okay? And of course, he turned around the Charlotte Bobcats to led them to their first playoff appearance in their history. So it was around after they made the playoffs in 2010, okay? There was some talk that Allen Iverson was going to be playing for the Charlotte Bobcats, okay? There was some talk about that. And Michael Jordan, who was the owner of the Charlotte Bobcats at that time, they had just come off a playoff appearance, the Charlotte Bobcats. And then Larry Brown recalls that. He said I wanted to bring him to Charlotte, Allen Iverson. He wanted to bring Allen Iverson to Charlotte. And MJ admired AI, and AI loved MJ. But MJ said, Larry, if we bring him here, you're going to play him ahead of all of these young kids. That's going to prohibit our progress. And he was right. Okay. So Allen Iverson to the Charlotte Bobcats never materialized. And so it would have been interesting to see Allen Iverson playing for an owner like Michael Jordan. Okay. That would have been interesting to see. Obviously, it would have reunited him with Larry Brown, someone who Allen Iverson feuded with his whole time in Philadelphia, right? But MJ didn't bring Allen Iverson to the Charlotte Bobcats, and ironically, the Charlotte Bobcats the next year, after making the playoffs in 2010, became the Charlotte Bobcats again because they went 34-48 in 2011. Okay, go figure, right? Speaking of Allen Iverson, there was a situation in 2006 that Kyle Korver, former teammate of Allen Iverson, spoke about. Okay. Um, Kyle Korver said, I think they just wanted the situation to be over with. They wanted Allen Iverson to be hated because they were getting tired of all the drama, all the locker room questioning by reporters. So here's the situation. In the final game of 2006, Allen Iverson and Chris Webber, they came late for a fan appreciation night and the final home game of the season, and they were fined. Then, 15 games into the 2006-2007 season, the Sixers started at 5-10. They benched Allen Iverson, and then they parted ways with Allen Iverson. Okay. The chairman of the Sixers, the name was Ed Snyder at that time. And Ed Snyder said, we were going to trade him at a certain point. You have to come to grips with the fact that it's not working. He wants out, and we're ready to accommodate him. Okay. So Allen Iverson wanted out, and the Sixers said, okay. Kyle Korver recalls that there was a media circus that was the issue in the Sixers locker room, and Kyle Korver was just one of the many players who grew tired of the speculation. Kyle Korver said, we just want to move on. Obviously now Iverson is probably going to be traded, or is going to be traded. So we just want to move on and not have to have long views. Hold on, wait. So we just want to move on and not have to have long interviews after shoot around, okay? And Maurice Cheeks, who was the coach at that time, said, we're just going forward with the people we have, and we're trying to win games. I think our team has been pretty good through all of this. And so finally, on December 19th, 2006, Iverson was traded to the Denver Nuggets along with Ivan McFarlane. They were both traded to the Nuggets for Andre Miller and Joe Smith and 2 first-round draft picks. Okay. And so, that was a situation that occurred with Allen Iverson, which reminds me of the 2001 trade that Allen Iverson almost happened. Okay. I mentioned moments ago how Larry Brown and Allen Iverson feuded their entire time in Philadelphia. Okay. And Larry Brown had gotten so tired of dealing with Allen Iverson. You could see it in his eyes in one press conference where Larry Brown was like, I'm tired of everybody talking about my relationship with Allen Iverson. I wonder what your relationship may be with any employee who doesn't choose to come to work on time or doesn't choose to come to work at all. Okay, that's how tired Larry Brown was. And they shopped Allen Iverson around the league, and he was traded to the Detroit Pistons. Okay, the deal was done. They were going to send Matt Geiger and Allen Iverson to the Pistons for Jerry Stackhouse. Okay, so the deal was done. Except for one thing. Okay, I talked about how Jerry West stepped in and stopped the trade that would have sent Worthy to the Mavericks after the Lakers lost the '86 Western Conference Finals. Okay, how Jordan stopped Scottie Pippen from being traded multiple times, right? So the deal was done, but there was something in Matt Geiger's contract. Okay, Matt Geiger had a 15% trade kick in his contract that he would not waive. Okay, and if Matt Geiger waived his 15% contract kick in, okay, let's restart that. If Matt Geiger waived his 15% trade kick in after he was traded to the Detroit Pistons, then Allen Iverson would have been a Detroit Piston in 2001 instead of 2009. Okay. So the fact that Matt Geiger refused to waive his 15% trade kick in his contract, that's the thing that nixed the deal. Okay. And Pat Croce, who was president of the Philadelphia 76ers at that time, Pat Croce went to Allen Iverson and said, "Allen, I cannot defend you anymore." He said, "I can't defend you anymore. If you don't follow Coach Brown's rules, then you're gone." And so, yeah. So Pat Croce wouldn't defend him. Okay. He wouldn't offend him. So, yeah. So that was a very shaky time for Allen Iverson, and I guess things improved. I know you know things improved when at the All-Star game that year when he won MVP. When Allen Iverson won All-Star game MVP. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. I was thinking Kobe Bryant won All-Star Game MVP, but that was in Philadelphia, 2002. Okay. So AI won All-Star MVP in 2001. And he got up to accept the MVP, and Allen Iverson was like, "Where's my coach? Coach Brown? He's around?" And so he thanked Coach Brown while he was getting the All-Star Game MVP. And so that's how that's how you know their relationship improved. They still feuded, okay, but I think Allen Iverson had a respect for Larry Brown, and Larry Brown had a respect for Allen Iverson, okay? All right, that's it. That's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am out of here. May God bless you all. Peace.